حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله نور محمد صلى الله لا إله إلا الله حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله نور محمد صلى الله لا إله إلا الله حسبي ربي جل الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وعلى كل من اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته واقتفى أثره إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My respected elders in Islam, today is Tuesday, the 4th of Ramadan, and this is our third lesson in our series titled Addressing the Believers. It is a well-established fact and everyone knows that the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made fasting compulsory in this month so as to help the believer get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is the main goal of fasting. The main goal of fasting the month of Ramadan is so that we'll get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we'll become more God conscious, we would gain righteousness, we would gain piety. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made fasting compulsory upon us. This is clear in the statements or in the verse 183 of Surah Al-Baqarah, Quran chapter 2, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O you who have believed, fasting has been made compulsory upon you, just as it has been made compulsory upon the nations that came before you, la'allakum tattaqun, so that you would become righteous, so you would get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This verse begins with the statement Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, and as we all know, our sessions or our lessons are based on verses that begin with Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. But in the list of verses right from Surah Al-Fatiha to Surah Al-Nas, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam, the verse we just recited, verse number 183 of Surah Al-Baqarah, isn't the first in the list. In fact, it is the fifth. But because we are in the blessed month of Ramadan, I see it fit to begin our series with this blessed ayah that talks about fasting in the month of Ramadan. So fasting, basically, as we all know, and as we just heard from the verse, Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us that He has made fasting compulsory upon us so that we would gain piety, so that we will get closer to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, I want us to think for a moment and then try our very best to see ways and means that can help us achieve this goal. Because the goal of fasting the month of Ramadan is so that we get closer to Allah. Now, how do we do that? Because if you are not able to achieve this goal of fasting the month of Ramadan, then it is as though your 1 month fasting period has gone to waste. It is as though you've done a cost 90 job. So it is best we know, how can one achieve piety in this blessed month of Ramadan, or from this fasting exercise that we are going to, or we are embarking upon. But before that, what is Taqwa? What is the fear of Allah? What is the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala briefly? The scholars have several definitions when it comes to what Taqwa is, even though all of them point to the same meaning. I would like us to take the definition of Talq bin Hubayb. Talq bin Hubayb said, Taqwa Allah amalun bi ta'atillahi ala nurin min Allahi raja'a rahmatillah. Wa taqwa tarku ma'asiyatillahi ala nurin min Allahi khifata iqabillah. What this definition basically means is at-taqwa amalu bi ta'atillah, doing what Allah Azza wa Jalla has commanded you to do, ala nurin min Allah, with the light and guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, raja'a rahmatillah, seeking the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So number one, to do good. But that good should be based on the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, based on the teachings of Islam. Number 3, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, staying away from evil. And you should be guided by the legislation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the main reason why you are abstaining from the evil is so that you don't fall in the wrath and then the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically, this is what taqwa Allah means. A poet, Ibn al-Mu'taz, said, خَلِّ الذُّنُوبَ صَغِيرَهَا وَكَبِيرَهَا ذَاكَ التُّقَى وَاصْنَعْ كَمَاشٍ فَوْقَ أَرْضِ شَوْكَةٍ يَحْذَرُ مَا يَرَى لَا تَحْقِرَنَّ صَغِيرَةً إِنَّ الْجِبَالَ مِنَ الْحَصَى. Ibn al-Mu'taz said, خَلِّ الذُّنُوبَ صَغِيرَهَا وَكَبِيرَهَا ذَاكَ التُّقَى. Stay away from sins, the major ones and then the minor ones, the big ones and then the small ones. That is taqwa Allah. When you are walking the path of life, walk the path as though the path is filled with thorns. And you know when you set foot or you step at a thorny place, you are going to harm or hurt yourself. You take your feet away from there. That is taqwa Allah azza wa jalla. So when you are walking the path of life and then you meet anything that is detrimental, that is harmful to your feet, harmful to your iman, you walk away from it. You fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this should be done, as I stated earlier, should be done with the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, should be done seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, when you are running away from evil, it should be done with the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically, this is taqwa Allah. And taj'al baynaka wa bayna adhabillahi wiqaya, is to place a barrier between yourself and falling into the anger, into the wrath, into the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is taqwa Allah basically. Now that we've understood what taqwa Allah is, quickly, in a couple of minutes, what are the things that a person can do to achieve taqwa Allah, the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this blessed month of Ramadan? Because that is the goal. After this fasting period, after this fasting exercise. Number 1 is Siyamu Ramadan i'tiqadan li fardiyatihi wa talaban li thawabi min Allah. Fast the month of Ramadan because you believe subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is Allah. You are doing it because you want Allah azza wa jalla to reward you. That is the primary and the most important thing. To have your Ramadan strong, to have your Ramadan that leading you to taqwa Allah azza wa jalla. Do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today, you find people fasting. You go through fasting the month. Well, I'm fasting because I don't want to be blamed for not fasting. I'd say I'm fasting because I want to lose weight. I'm fasting because I need to save money. Well, all these are reasons. They are fasting because they health benefits. All these things are good reasons. But if your fasting is not done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the most important step in achieving that Allah to get us. As narrated in Ramadan, anyone who fasts the month of Ramadan, imanan, with faith and conviction, seeking the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One, make sure you are fasting because it is Allah's command and you are seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that fasting. Doing that would guarantee your fast to be close to one that can give you the taqwa Allah that we accept or that we hope a person gets when they are done fasting. Number 2, quickly, Shinabul haram outside Ramadan is still haram. Haram inside Ramadan is still haram. But in Ramadan, it is much severe. Stay away from haram. Stay away from anything that is not permissible for a Muslim to do. The Prophet وَالصِّيَامُ جُنَّةٌ. Fasting is a shield. Fasting is a shield. The Salani says this shield protects you from falling into evil deeds, protects you from said something very, very beautiful. He says, As-sawmu junnah. Naam, fasting is a shield. Protect that shield from harm. You are supposed to diminish or reduce or destroy the blessings you are going to get when you are to be. And it's a very, very profound. End of the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, وَإِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ صَوْمِ أَحَدِكُمْ. If one of you is fasting, فَلَا يَرْفُثْ وَلَا يَسْخُبْ. If one of you is fasting, then they shouldn't be vulgar and vile in their speech. They shouldn't be vile and vulgar in their speech. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, anyone who doesn't leave vain talk, vile talk, talk is, useless talk, person leaving his food or drink for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So point number 2, let's do everything possible to stay away from everything that is haram. Point number 3, quickly, utilizing our time, using the most of our time to multiply nawafil, giving out sadaqah, help break their fast, keeping family ties. All these things are good deeds. Ramadan. Ibn al-Jawzi said, ينبغي للإنسان